Hey, so in our last episode, we discussed about cattle mutilations by the aliens, right? So my interest peaked, and I was thinking, well, were any humans abducted by the aliens? Were there any direct contact by the aliens with humans? So, and I thought we could discuss about that today. Do you have any stories for me on that?
Yeah, definitely. Uh, it'll be too dumb to just think aliens would be just interested on animals and not just cattle and other type of animals, not humans.
Not just cattles. Shameless plug to our podcast name.
So yeah, one of the most famous human abduction story was Betty and Barney. Oh yeah, I think that I said the name correctly. Yeah, Betty and Barney case.
Hmm.
It happened around 1961.
Okay.
So this is near New Hampshire. If you remember our trip,
Oh, yes.
yeah. So the New Hampshire trip.
Love the fall colors.
Yes.
Yep.
So it was around a similar time, I guess. Like they went from New Hampshire to Montreal.
Hmm.
Their original plan was to stay overnight in Montreal or something, but the weather changes, and I think there was a hurricane warning or something like that, and they decided, okay, let's leave early, and they started driving. But this was a usual route. Like New Hampshire and Montreal route isn't like it's a pretty straight route, and it's a scenic route too,
Yeah.
right? So you would enjoy driving
Yeah,
through
definitely.
that route.
Yeah.
Yeah, and definitely you would see outside, like looking outside is even if it's not UFO or aliens, like you would
Right.
have so many things to be
Yep.
looking at.
Just the nature is so beautiful, right?
Yeah, the mountain area is really nice place. So they were coming back from Montreal on the way back to their home in New Hampshire. So that's when they saw some interesting light. This was during the night time, I believe. They were driving back, and they saw something which was like really bright. And initially, they thought, okay, it's some planet, maybe Venus or something like that, right? Where like usually you see a bright planet. But the size started growing. Maybe okay, they thought, oh, maybe it could be moon. No, but it was growing quite big. And she also noticed pulsating lights around the craft. That's when they started thinking, okay, maybe this could be a craft. This was during a time where there were a lot of UFO, or UFO was in general culture and saying, where like people were talking about UFOs during the time, because this is like yeah, even the Roswell incident happened far uh,
It was mid 40s.
yeah, for 1947 is Roswell, I believe.
Right.
So this is
And this is
1961.
early 1960s.
Yeah,
Right?
1961 to be
Yeah, so
precise.
not too far off from the
Yeah.
incident that
Mm.
made everyone talk about UFO, right?
Yes. And yeah, they realized it's not just some random craft. It was some seemed like a UFO. So Barney, he is someone who's a veteran. So
Hmm.
he has worked in military, so he knows like he can differentiate something which is like a random military aircraft or something which is like not identified. So they stopped the car. I think Barney took a binocular and he was trying to look at the craft. And I think before that, for some reason, like Betty, she is a very curious person.
Okay.
That's something I understood from hearing her interview. So she rolled the window down and she even waved at the craft for some
Brave Betty.
reason. You don't
or
know.
or uh, she doesn't know what she's getting into at that
Yes,
point.
exactly. That's the whole point, right? We
Yeah.
don't know what she was getting into. And she waved at the craft, and it seemed like the craft did respond back by trying to follow them, and it was ahead of them, but it was still trying to pace with them. And that's when they stopped the car, and Barney decided to look at the craft, and he had a binocular, I believe. So
Okay.
he looked at the craft, and they said it had windows.
Okay.
And Barney managed to look at the windows and he was able to see beings inside who was looking back at them. So that made them a little bit worried or scared.
So, so at this point, the UFO or that craft was like very close to the ground, or how far away from the ground
Yeah,
was
so
it?
that's the point, right? It's not flying at a distance at an altitude which like usually a traditional aircraft would fly. So it was
Okay.
really low. So during that time where it was
Right.
very low, that's why they were able to see almost inside of the craft.
Right. Right. Okay.
And once they saw like some kind of being inside, obviously they couldn't tell what person or what is that. They got little worried and they started driving back again, and they didn't see the craft for some time. And one interesting thing was they took a road which they usually normally may not take, because this is a time where like you don't have GPS, right?
Right.
You have to have the maps in your head. You need to know the exits and everything ahead of time.
Right.
But even though it's a usual route, like they know this Montreal to New Hampshire route pretty well, but they kind of took a side road. And to their surprise, out of nowhere, there was a creature or a alien kind of a creature standing right in the middle of the road, and this craft was hovering, or it was just like standing there. It's like they got
Like
freaked
it
out.
was waiting for
Yeah.
these
Yeah.
to come to that spot. Okay.
And yeah, they really got scared. And the even worse thing was the motor stopped. The car just stopped.
Oh, like completely
Yep.
gone. It wasn't moving at
Yeah,
all.
it just stopped. Basically, their engine shut off.
Well, I'm just trying to be logical about this, right? Was it because something was wrong with the car, or did the aliens do something to stop the car? Like, I know there isn't a right answer to this, but what do you think is the most appropriate thing that would
So
happen?
the point is, it's all speculation.
Right.
But point is, one of my understanding is maybe these crafts definitely uses some kind of technology for propulsion which we don't understand. Maybe it's some sort of it creates certain type of electromagnetic radiation which kind of influences with kind of electronics or any kind of electrical instruments which are around that. So even you know, right, like if you get a solar flare, a lot of
It can wipe
components
out.
can stop working. We don't know, like again, if something which is like quite effective or like magnetic, if it has such a powerful thing, like it's the same way. Like if you go to if you are at a MRI machine,
Right.
if
They ask you not to wear metal
yes,
stuff
yes.
because
Yeah,
the magnetism
it can create issues with other devices and things. So in
Right.
the same way, my assumption is because it's like, say if it's a diesel car, maybe it may not have been a problem. I think like if they were having a petrol car, that might be a spark plug, which needs ignition, and you need a solenoid, and like you have some electricity involved,
Right.
even
Right.
if it's a gas driven vehicle.
Well, imagine driving a Tesla at that time. Who knows what would have happened?
Maybe that's why we didn't have electrical cars at that time. There were too many UFOs. I
You.
guess.
All right, but sorry, didn't mean to deroute from the topic. So yeah,
They got derouted.
they
They got derouted from the.
and the aliens stopped them in the middle of the road, and they
Yes.
were like having an eye to eye moment. What was happening?
I don't know if it was eye to eye moment, but something was there. If I was there, like I would be, I don't know, peeing in my pants.
Run the other way around first.
That's what Betty tried.
Okay.
She just like as soon as the car stopped, she tried. Okay, she opened the door and tried to run towards the forest.
Okay.
But the creatures immediately stopped her.
Okay.
So it wasn't just like the one creature which was in front of their vehicle. There were multiple beings which was on the sides. So it was like a pretty planned or
Ambush.
ambush. Yeah, that's the right word. Yeah. So they got hold of Barney also,
Okay.
and both of them were taken inside the craft.
Oh, so the abduction moment is this.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, they don't send you letters.
No.
You just get taken. That's how it happens.
Okay. Okay.
So both Barney and Betty were inside the craft, but interesting thing was they were both taken to a different room. They were not in the same place. maybe they decided the husband and wife shouldn't be together when they're going to experiment.
Things are still confidential even between husband and wife. So
Yeah, when it comes to alien, I think they know it's better we can get the truth when they are alone. Yeah, yeah. So, so yeah, the so one interesting thing which Betty recollected was there seemed to be a set of predefined kind of roles for each of the beings. So she said like she saw at least like 11 beings total.
okay.
So there were a few which were supposed to be taking care of the regular craft work or like something which like they're
Okay.
like a worker, or maybe there was someone who specifically maybe call them as scientist or the experimenter. So
Right.
because this particular being was moving between the different between Barney and Betty. Uh, yes. So basically, that person was the one who was leading the experiment, is what she was recollecting.
Okay. Okay. Like there are levels, just like us. There are
Yeah,
levels
yeah,
in the people working on that ship,
yeah.
and then
Looks like it.
okay.
So they have some hierarchy or something like that.
Right.
And the table was funny, where like it wasn't a very lengthy table, is what she said. Apparently, Barney is a little tall, and
Mhm.
his feet was hanging out. So, but
Okay.
Betty is a shorter person. She was fitting in the table, is what she said. But these creatures were also quite small, where they were not like really huge or anything. So they were like maybe 5 foot or maybe less than that, is what they were saying. And they tried to kind of poke around her, try to, I think, remove pieces of her dress. She wasn't like, she was in a panic state, but also not too. It was weird, like that, because she says like she's very curious, and that is also something which maybe drove her to just like remain as is. Or we don't know if these creatures induced something which put them in a kind of a state. Because one thing they kept saying is like they kind of lost track of the memory,
Okay.
but a lot of things came later only through hypnotherapy. Um, yeah,
Ah.
that's how they recollected a lot of these events. But
Okay.
yeah, they were poking and they were just like checking the eyes and regular things. But funny thing was, apparently Barney,
Mm-hmm.
he kind of lost his tooth during one of a grenade accident while he was in service.
Okay.
So he had a dentures put in place. So which means like you can take the whole teeth off.
Okay.
And this experimenter comes and tries to pull her teeth off too, not realizing it's not something just gonna just come off.
Oh, so the alien thought, okay,
That's
people
how we are made
people
of.
have a loose tooth or
Yeah,
whatever, and they try to
yeah.
remove the teeth.
Yeah, and apparently she was trying to explain. But this is the part where
Explain what?
that this is not something you can just pull off.
Oh, she was trying to have a
She,
talk
yeah, she
with
was
the
conversing,
alien
but
being.
even though they weren't like able to communicate in a perfect English or anything, but looks
Right.
like they were able to communicate telepathically to her thoughts. It's like as if like she just like understands what they are trying to say. So that's what, yeah, and this is something we keep hearing multiple times.
Right, right. Yeah, like they don't have like a normal, when I say normal in terms of us, right?
Yeah,
They don't have some language,
yeah,
and
yeah.
mostly they use mind games or whatever you want to call it. Okay.
Yeah. So it looks like they took some sample of her hair also, and and yeah, and then later they started using some needle and try to poke around her belly, and that's when she started having a little bit of pain, and she was trying to convey that okay, this is painful. I think they
Okay.
stopped, or they did something which kind of made her feel not painful
Okay.
and everything.
Okay. So
And
they're
then
being respectful then.
I don't know. I wouldn't say if being taken into a spaceship without my consent is being respectful. Okay, yeah, maybe they didn't kill her. so, so yeah, if that's what you mean by respectful. But the point is, she was also. I think they were done with the experimentation or whatever data they wanted to collect from them,
Mhm.
and then but she was. This is like quite fascinating. Where like Betty insisted that she needed something to prove later when she goes back that okay, something like this happened, right?
Oh, from the aliens?
Yeah, from
She
the
wanted
alien. She
something.
wanted some souvenir,
Like a souvenir.
like a
Okay.
souvenir. So that's when she.
She's probably like, guys, you don't understand. My people back home would not believe me if I tell this story. Give me something.
Yeah,
Give me a fridge magnet or something.
Yes, I was in a UFO.
Right? Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Did she get something?
Not a fridge magnet, but there was a book which was in the craft and just nearby, and she asked for the book, and but then like she was also asking where do they come from, what they do. That's how I think she saw the book.
Okay.
They pointed a certain star system, and they said this is where they come from. It's kind of like she remembered the picture which they showed, and yeah, she wanted to take the book, but for some reason when they were leaving, they didn't let her walk away with the book.
The book.
For some reason, but the kind of scriptures she saw, she said it seemed very similar to Oriental scriptures, like something like a Japanese or a Chinese or Mandarin kind of a character, but it's far more simpler. I think it's more close to its hieroglyphic kind of thing, but it's not like a regular art, the English kind of scriptures. It's different.
Okay, that makes sense. I don't want to see an English book there, right?
Yeah, that'll be too surprising. Where like if they knew if they're gonna talk in English,
right?
So then they got back. So the way it worked was like they said, okay, yeah, they just remembered just like driving back and then reaching home, and that's when they were saying, okay, it took longer than usual for us to return because they do this travel quite frequently. They know like how much time usually it takes. But that's when they said, okay, and then slowly they realized, okay, something wasn't right because Barney didn't have his shoes on. Shoes was missing.
Okay.
And they looked at their watch. The watch, it wasn't working. Both their watches wasn't working. And they also, by the way, had a dog when they were doing this.
Oh, the dog was also abducted?
I don't think the dog was abducted. I believe the dog was still in the car when they left. But unfortunately, after they got back, like the dog had a lot of problems for some reason which we don't know. But it also died unfortunately quite soon. But it had a lot of boils or things which you would traditionally see in radiation hazard kind of a situation. Okay, but obviously, we can't tell. But but the most it's kind of. Yeah, it's interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, right. I mean, were they also affected by some kind of illness, or how were they doing after they got back home?
I think they were okay. They tried to. I think they just like had to take a long shower just to, because it also mentally affects, right? So like I said, they didn't have a whole memory clarity like what happened, but then like a lot of things came back like when they went to hypnotherapy. They were clearly aware of the fact that something wasn't right.
Right.
Something in between happened. They had like a very vague memory of it, but a lot of this information came back through hypnotherapy. But one, there were some physical evidence, like Betty's clothes or a dress. It was I think it's some very special dress, I believe, what she was having. I think it was the second time she was wearing, and it was torn at the bottom. And it was something which was physically evident. And then they also had some kind of a markings in the back of their car.
Oh, their car?
Yeah, which never went off even after they tried to brush it off and clean things. And yeah.
Did the aliens keyed their car?
I don't know.
What markings did they find?
So it was some weird markings is what they say. And the interesting thing about the marking is like when you take a compass or something nearby, it starts rotating. So basically some magnetic anomaly existed on those marking for some reason. Basically it got magnetized or something. Obviously,
right.
Yeah. But the most other interesting thing was there was some pink powder they noticed on her dress. So this was also sent like again, Betty immediately reported this incident to the local police, and they referred her to the military army base. So the best corroboration came when the army said they actually saw a unidentified object in their radar around that area, which they seem to have faced the incident, and they sent a aircraft like a military jet like to kind of try to track that. So there is a
Okay.
report about unidentified object around that time, around similar time.
On the
So
same night.
on the same night, exactly around
Okay.
the same time, and that's why the military was very cooperative in terms of trying to understand, and she was apparently always welcome to the base whenever she wanted to go, and they
Special guest.
yeah, and they also visit her and do all things, and that's the other part where when she left, right?
Mm-hmm.
When she left uh, when they were leaving before from the aliens, right? Like she had said, like, can we meet you back, or maybe can you come and meet our friends too? So that kind of so that's a level of curiosity Betty had.
Nice.
So the funny thing is, they have had a lot of UFO sightings after this incident too. New Hampshire has been
When you say they, Betty and Barney?
Betty and Barney, and even around the area, New Hampshire by itself
Okay.
has had a lot of UFO sightings, and there have been other cases too.
Was it fall season? Did the aliens love the color just like I did? Or
I don't
what's
know
happening?
if it was just during the fall season, but I would say New Hampshire is a nice place to.
It is a beautiful place,
It's-
no
it's-
questions on
yes.
that.
It's-
Wonderful. So let me ask you this. You mentioned hypnotherapy,
Mhm.
right? So I'm assuming hypnotherapy is like a session where the doctor or the professional who does the hypnotherapy makes you sit and then put you in like a sleep mode and then try to get into your memory and make you talk your memories. Uh, that in a normal sense does not happen. Um, how legit is this process? Like, is it like one of the proven methods, or is it also speculative?
No, it is a pretty good method, but obviously it is very difficult to kind of say, okay, 100% it's right, because a person can always falsify what they want to say. But hypnotherapy is proven, or like it is used extensively. I wouldn't say like it's some fringe kind of method which happens.
Okay.
So yeah, because imagine this situation, right? Like sometimes, like you have some idea, or like some words, even for example,
Right.
okay, it's in your head, but you can't say at that point of time.
Right.
You have to. So the best time you get those memory back is usually when you shower.
Take a shower.
Take a shower.
Okay.
You get things back, right? Like sometimes, like you get new ideas too. So what happens usually is like we relax.
Okay.
Because relaxation helps in like the lot of inputs which we get like throughout the day and things, like where we forget about that, and we rest our awareness a little bit. I think this hypnosis and hypnotherapy with that technique, maybe it would have helped. That's when
Okay.
like where, if you think, right, where Betty managed to draw that star system
Right.
which those alien pointed out. Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So she forgot this abduction thing happened on that night. They came back home. They wondered, okay, something was wrong that night. They couldn't put a finger on what happened. But then later, when things started coming back, hypnotherapy happened and all these memories came out. And she drew this star map during the hypnotherapy session.
I think she kind of explained it, but then later, like she was able to draw it.
Okay, my next obvious question, is there a real star system like that?
So that's the biggest kind of a validating evidence, I would say.
No.
No, that's
No,
what.
no, come on.
So when she was drawing, we were not aware of such a star system. This is like a unique place in the sky where they managed to find it, and they managed to find this only 10 years later after this incident. And it's I think it's called the Zeta Reticuli system or something. I think that's the name they give.
So whatever she drew around that time that they got abducted, 10 years later was found to be true.
Yep, that star system which was shown to her was found. And the most interesting thing was the way that system was found was people were the person who found this said that as if this system has one of the high likelihood for life forms to exist.
Ah,
Yeah.
so that was proven too.
Yeah. No, obviously we didn't prove that like life form exists.
Right,
there,
yeah, you cannot,
But
per our usual
Yeah.
scientific methods, it
Yeah.
is discovered that
E-
life can
exactly.
exist. So when are we going there to meet them?
You just have to wave.
Right. Or use your binoculars and then make some waves so that they know you are looking at me.
Yeah.
I'm gonna come get you.
Maybe let's go to New Hampshire.
Right?
Drive all the way to Montreal.
Yeah, my wife would love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, this is quite interesting story. So how are they doing, Betty and Barney? Are they still alive or?
No, they passed away.
Okay.
Barney, he passed away a little earlier than Betty, but
Okay.
yeah, they have passed away.
Gotcha. Wow, man, that's some wild story.
Yeah.
Do you have any more to share, or this was plateful. This was a lot.
Yeah.
Is there more to the story, or?
I think yeah, that was one other interesting thing she shared, which was also interesting. I think her earrings was missing, is what Betty mentioned.
Nah, she might have lost it.
And
somewhere.
that's what high likelihood maybe during when they were experimenting maybe it was taken, but the thing was she was trying to search for all over the place and like she couldn't find. But then a week later she found it in her dining table, just on top of the dining table.
Like someone just placed it
Seemed
there.
like, seemed like someone just left it for her.
I shouldn't have asked. Is there more to the story? This only can get more interesting, I guess.
Yes.
Wow, that's some wild story. Anyways, as usual, thanks, dude. That was an interesting story. Until next time.
Yep. Bye.